It's recording. It's telling me it's recording.
Okay, great. Okay, so Thomas, I know from my own state, and we've got Hayden, and do you pronounce it Gabriel or Gabriel?
Gabriel, you said it right the first time.
Gabriel, okay. And where are you from, Gabriel?
Southern California, so San Diego.
Oh, wow. And Hayden, where are you from?
I'm from the upstate of South Carolina near Clemson University.
Okay, great. And so the the topic is supposed to be how to become an all-star volunteer. So I don't know if that's what people want to talk about or, okay. So how to become an all-star volunteer. The first thing you do is just start volunteering. And the way to be an effective volunteer are the most important thing you can do to be an effective volunteer is do what the campaign needs you to do. I talk to people, and it's fine if you want to build new skills. I talk to people who say, I want to do more with video, I want to do more with graphic arts, or I want to do more with computer programming, or I want to cut turf. When generally what campaigns need from volunteers is voter contact. And that's not to say that you can't, follow your passion and do both. But the first thing to do to become a sought after volunteer is to do what the campaign needs you to do. And more often than not, that's going to be voter contact. Second thing in terms of being an effective volunteer is build your network. I'm sure that people are talking to you about that as the summit moves forward. But social media really gives people the way to stay in touch with people. It gives you a way to stay in touch with people even across the country. And you've heard people say about, we became best friends and we only met once in our lives, or something like that. But social media and Zoom and everything lets people stay in touch. And build your network and recruit people who'll volunteer. They don't exaggerate that much. I am a very sought after volunteer, and I'm a sought after volunteer because I do crazy things like knock on doors for 53 consecutive days. That's my record. And yeah, it's a little crazy. And I do things like bring other people with me. And so if you want to become a sought after volunteer, besides doing what the campaign asks you to do, then the next thing is get other people to do it with you. And I know that is one of the many reasons that I am sought after by campaigns. I somehow came up on my mentor call. Were any of you involved in presidential campaigns? I'll stop talking for a second. Thomas, remind me who you supported.
I supported Warren, but I wasn't too involved with the campaign just because I was busy. But I'm for Biden now. I'm doing some work with the campaign.
Yeah, you had mentioned that. Gabriel, were you involved in a presidential campaign?
Right now I am. I'm with California high schooler students for Biden. So I am doing internal communications for event building, so like phone calls and emails and things like that, and newsletters.
Okay, great. And were you with anyone in the primary?
No.
Okay. And Hayden, what about you?
I did work with the STAR campaign over in Greenville in the primaries for a little bit, and now I'm working with High Schoolers for Biden. I'm co-chair of LGBT+ High Schoolers for Biden, co-chair of South Carolina High Schoolers for Biden, and vice chair of North Carolina High Schoolers for Biden.
Oh, wonderful. So anyway, some of the people who were Warren supporters got a kick out of, I told the story of how when Elizabeth Warren, when she was running for Senate, and we had a bunch of guys that were running, their campaigns weren't getting off the ground, and then the DSCC recruited Elizabeth Warren, and everybody knew what was coming. And then one day at about 2 p.m., she posted on a blog, which shows you how things have changed. But back in 2011, she posted on a blog that she was starting her exploratory committee. And she mentioned in her blog that over the next few days, she'd be calling the governor, the other senator, it was John Kerry, and the members of Congress. And I happened to be volunteering at the Massachusetts Democratic Party headquarters that day. And so, as soon as it hit, it's like, okay, now the fun's going to start. And then as I was leaving the office a few hours later, the phone rings and I pick it up, and the voice says, "This is Elizabeth Warren." And I don't say anything. I thought it was going to say, dial 1 to get more information, dial 2 to make a donation. And then she says, "Is this a bad time?" And it's like, oh, this is a real person. This is the person who is likely going to be the Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate. And she's just called me. Within the same day she's saying she's calling, the governor and the other people. So I say, well, I guess I better talk to her. And so that was the beginning of my relationship with Elizabeth Warren. I had never spoken with her before. But because I had a reputation as somebody who would bring people, it got me to the top of the list. I remember saying to her that day, "Who gave you my name?" And she said, "Oh, a number of people gave me your name." You know how when you're doing something like this and you talk to people and everyone says, who should I talk to? And they're saying, that everybody will always give you names. So the first way to become an effective volunteer is do what you're asked. The second way to become an effective volunteer is build a network of people who you will bring with you. And the third way is use your influence wisely. So those are some of the things. Is there anything that people have questions on, anything you've been struggling with? I'm interested in hearing. Thomas, I got a call from Caroline Harding earlier this afternoon looking to get connected with stuff. And I mentioned that you had mentioned to me you were doing Biden phone banks. What's your schedule? And I think she's going to reach out to you, but why don't you tell me what you're doing with the Biden campaign?
Yeah, so we'll be doing weekly phone banks for him, just like an hour and a half zaps every Saturday at 12.
Saturday at 12.
Yeah, so we're probably going to start next Saturday because this Saturday is the 4th. But we'll be doing that, and I'm going to call Caroline about it later.
Okay. And are you posting it publicly or on the Biden website, or are you limiting it?
Yeah, we'll start posting it publicly soon. I'll put it on our Instagram and on our website too.
Okay. I'd encourage you to put it on the Biden website. They have a Mobilize account. At this point, I would encourage you to, I just did an event through the Mobilize website. I'll share my screen. It's interesting how these things work out. But one of the ways that you can become an effective volunteer, as I mentioned, is by building a network of people who will follow you. I recall somebody who said to me, she said, this person calls me up and she's freaking. She really wants to, she's in a contested race and she's afraid she's going to lose. And I knew she was going to win, but she was worried. She says, I just want to get 3 sign holders for Saturday morning, and I'm not big on visibility, but it was what the candidate wanted. So I said, okay, that's fine. I'm in Florida, I can't help you, but I can line 3 people up for you. So I lined 3 people up, and then I'm just going to share this screen because it's interesting. So anyway, so I tell her, don't worry, calm down, you're covered. And then somebody who later ran for state rep, he shows up. He was one of the people she was running against. And he has since become one of my best friends. But he shows up at the time as a Republican. And this woman shows up and says, I'm looking for Lee. I'm here to hold signs. And my friend was astonished that somebody would volunteer to hold signs in a selectman's race for somebody they didn't know just because someone asked them. And he told me years later, he said, as soon as I saw that happen, I said, I've got to get to know this woman. So if you have people who will just show up to volunteer for whoever you ask them to volunteer for, you'll get to be an all-star volunteer. In terms of the Biden campaign, anyone can post an event on Mobilize. Because I've been working with the staffers here in Massachusetts, I'm trusted host. So I had a group in the primary. I was a Warren supporter, as I mentioned, called Teen Leader Leaders. So just as a demonstration, I put this event on the Mobilize site, and I made it public, which I don't usually do. And I said, well, TLL for Biden, that's cryptic enough. The people who are part of it will recognize it, and everybody else will have to read the description. So I posted it as looking for teens who are interested in phoning for Joe Biden with other teens. And suddenly I had like 24 signups. I had 34 people sign up for this random phone bank, which I didn't really publicize. And most of them didn't show up, but it's a good way, so Thomas, if you want to send me your phone bank as a repeating event, I can put it up without you having to wait for approval or wait for someone else to edit it. If you put an event up yourself, then somebody needs to approve it. And then if you decide to make a change, someone else needs to edit it. So as a member of the Adult Advisory Board, if you want to write it up for me, I can put it up. I can make it public or private. But I will say, it's been my experience that even if I set something up and say teens for whoever, random adults sign up. And it's something you need to be a little bit careful about. But we could put it as like a limit of 5. I was doing a conference call for teens from my house at 8 p.m. one day, and somebody knocks on the door and says, I'm here. And for whatever reason, I was having trouble with Mobilize that day, and I had to put the address in. So getting back to, so Thomas, you're going to, beginning next week, you're going to do it from noon to whenever? Noon to 1:30?
Yeah, I can write a description and send it to you, for sure.
Okay. And do you know what list you're going to be using? Are you working with one of the organizers?
Yeah, so I had calls with Jamie, who is co-chair of Massachusetts High Schoolers for Biden. And I think to like spice it up, we were going to try and do like one swing state each Saturday, like a different one each Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are they having you call voters, or are they having you do community calls?
We're going to call voters, I think.
Okay. And Gabriel, you said that you're working with the Biden campaign right now. Any challenges? Oh, I jumped away from Thomas. Any bad experiences, good experiences in campaigns you want to share?
No, as of now, I'm really trying to help out the staff as we're working in, and most of my job pertaining now is community building within the group and making sure that students are aware when these upcoming meetings are, and when we do send that weekly newsletter, that the one who's making these newsletters is aware of what events are coming up. Later today we do have an event for students just to get to know each other a little bit, and obviously express why they're supporting the Biden campaign, just so when they do that one phone bank, they feel inclined to come back and do another one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Did you I know it's the greater San Diego area. There's a big community next to San Diego, almost as big. What would that be?
Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of them. Currently, I reside in Imperial Beach, but I think you might be thinking of Chula Vista.
That
It's
might
usually-
be.
That's like the second biggest one. You either say like you're from San Diego or you're from Chula Vista or East Lake. But most likely Chula Vista does make like a really big portion of it.
Yeah. Do you know, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but Azul Mora?
I don't think so.
She was a student who worked with me on the Teens for Warren campaign, and I forget the exact town she lives in, but I remember looking it up. And I'm just bringing her up on my Facebook page right now. Yeah, that's exactly right, Chula Vista.
Mhm.
So if you're looking to get students involved, you might want to reach out to her. I think she might be moving away from political activism towards, well, from electoral activism to other kinds of political activism. And Hayden, anything that you've been particularly working on, that anything that you find challenges in terms of what you've been working on?
Not at the moment.
Yeah. So in general, like I said, the first thing is do what the campaigns want you to do. Second thing is build a network so that you bring others. That's generally the most effective thing that you can do for campaigns, which it sounds like Gabrielle's working on, and making sure that people come back. And then the other things are look to build your skills. You don't want to be, if you want to be, as the advertisement said, the candidate that everybody wants and knows, you want to do the things that I talked about, but build your skills in other areas, but always be cognizant of the staffer's time. If you say to a staffer, hey, I want to do something more than just voter contact, and chances are the chances are that, depending on the situation, the smaller the campaign, the more opportunities you have for skill building. But you're most effective when you look to see what a campaign needs. When you say, I'm observing that, let's say that some of the adults volunteering on the campaign, the retired people, they're struggling with creating an action ID. And the campaign has this 9-page document that isn't helpful. And how about if and this is something that I'm doing a lot now. So if somebody needs an action ID, what I'm more likely to do, instead of having everybody show up at the phone bank and say, create your action ID, or even to say in advance, create. If I'm dealing with people and from my conversations with them, it's become clear that they don't have a lot of technical experience. I'll say, okay, schedule 15 minutes ahead of time where, I set up, you can't directly set up an action ID where you say, okay, I'm going to go through create an action ID. You'll get an email. You forward that email to me. I'll set your password up and I'll tell you your password. And it saves tons of time if you do that in advance. So if you say to somebody, that's just an example of, if you look to see where there's a need and find a solution where you're not making work for the staffer, that will help you build your skills and it will help you become an effective volunteer. Is this helpful to people, or am I just kind of?
Oh yeah, that of course it's 100% helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
One of the students who's in my mentor group, when we were doing introductions, he said that he wanted to do more with graphic design and video production. And so a couple of things. My immediate response was kind of, if you're looking to do that, if you're expecting on a presidential campaign to have the staff members put you in their video production room as you're helping make videos, probably not going to happen. But if you say, hey, I think I can make a fun video geared towards teens that will teach them how to use this particular phone banking tool, and then distribute it yourself, then you know, you'll be helping the campaign and you'll be building your skills. So a few years ago, well, back in 2013, you know how a lot of people are nervous about canvassing and they think they're going to be grilled on somebody's issue questions, and it just doesn't happen that way. I'm going to drop a link in the chat. So this is a video that where's my chat button? This is a video that I made just as a volunteer. I had this idea that if we included certain things in the video that would help give people the confidence that yes, they could do this, that it would help getting recruiting canvassers. So I just found, you know, I just had this vision, and then this professional comedian who has been on like national TV, earns his living as a comedian. He says, Kate, how can I be helpful? How can I combine my skills with comedy, with campaigning? And I said, how about making a video with me? And he said, sure. And then I had reached out to a professional videographer, and he had said he'd help. But then he was like, yeah, I'm busy. And I'm saying, oh, come on. Well, Thomas might have heard of him. Jimmy Tingle, you know Jimmy Tingle.
Yeah, I went to a town hall with him and Quentin. They were interesting.
Yeah. Well, this gentleman eventually ran for our lieutenant governor. But so anyway, my video producer was backing off on me. And I said, Jimmy Tingle's going to help. He says, oh, Jimmy Tingle, because in my generation, he was kind of a famous comedian. And so he said, oh, Jimmy Tingle's doing it. Sure, I'm in. So I recruited the talent. I helped with the script. And now we have this video that has, and we made it intentionally with it's now at, sorry, I'm staring at my screen, 22,338 views on YouTube. So we made it, and that's with like virtually no promotion. That's just through word of mouth. Made it just 7 years ago, plus a month or so. And it popped up on Facebook saying, hey, here's a reminder of what you were doing. So I popped it up on Facebook and saying, oh, and the funny thing about it was the day we made the video, I told everybody who had a part in the video, we're going to go canvassing. After you do your piece, we're going to go canvassing, because I want to make sure that everybody who helped in the video, well, maybe not everybody, but to get as many people canvassing as we could while we were making a video about canvassing. And it's a pretty timeless video. And so I popped it up on my Facebook, and some random person from like Kentucky said, oh, I use that video all the time when I was training my volunteers. So, you know, you can do things like that without staff support. We're getting to the very tail end, but I tell people when I'm training people on campaigns, on volunteer recruitment, I tell people that there are three kinds of volunteers. The volunteers who actually help your campaign, the volunteers who don't really help your campaign, but they don't hurt it either. And then there's the third kind of volunteers, which I think you guys can figure out, the volunteers who actually hurt your campaign. And you might say, how can a volunteer hurt your campaign? A volunteer can hurt your campaign by being a time sink for the staff, by being a time sink for the candidate, They can hurt your campaign by hanging out in the office, eating all your food, not doing any work, and demoralizing your other volunteers. They can damage your campaign by being so annoying they drive other people away. So we're at 5:29. If anybody has any questions, you can just ask them. And I'm going to put, Thomas already has this information, but I will put my email address in the chat. And so Thomas, if you wanted to get that Zoom room and everything, if you don't want to, my suggestion is put it on Mobilize, whether you want it public or not. Because if you put it on Mobilize, then it integrates with the campaign's vote builder, and so on. So, and then my phone is, by the way. You might want to do your first one without making it a public event, but then, you know, once you've got the kinks out of it, make it a public event, but just be prepared for random adults to show up. If you're not prepared for random adults to show up, we can just keep it a private event. Why don't you think about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Can you remind me of the name of the person who was near Chula Vista, just so, you know, eventually before she, you know, she steps down from doing all of her activities, I can be like, can you like do like a, I don't know, like a 15-minute training of, you know, all these things that she's done?
Well, I'm not sure how much she did. She was part of my group, but I think it's worth reaching out to her. She's on Facebook. If you Facebook friend me, I don't like to tell people to Facebook friend somebody else. But if, why don't you, I'm Kate Donahue. I'm Facebook friends with random people all over the country, lots of high school students. And let me see what she's posting these days. But
Kate, sorry. I have to get to the bylaws meeting because we're voting, but this was really great, and I really thank you for your time.
Yes, sorry about that. Go to the bylaws. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'll be in touch with people. If you need to reach me, I can reach out to Azul and see if she's interested.
Perfect. I'll reach out to you then.
Team Enough San Diego, general. Yeah, but yeah, just reach out to me and I'll see if she wants to connect, okay?
Perfect.
Thanks.
All right. Take care. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.